Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right, my fellow Americans, the clarion call for civility continues. Yeah, we're going to be talking to braverangels.org. Who are we talking about? A group that believes we can dial it back, that we can turn down the temperature. And the way we do that is to make people human. You know what? Let people kind of talk. Let people kind of get face to face, virtually or physically, and learn about, hey, who are these people? Who are you? What do you stand for? Are you just a political, or is there more to you than meets the eye? And I think when we do that, we begin to understand something that we've kind of lost in America, it seems, as of late. As we know, back in 2016, I wrote an article, A Clarion Call for Civility. And I kind of said, hey, the temperature's changed somehow. It's just somehow become worse since then. So now I'm finishing my book on this very topic. But one of the leaders in this space is Braver Angels, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got Wilk Wilkinson with us. He's Director of Media Systems and Operations over at braverangels.org. He is a creator. He's a talk host. He's a devoted husband, a loving father, a steadfast Christian. Hey, his journey through life has been marked by resilience. We'll talk about that in his early days. Wilk, welcome to Liberty Roundtable Live, sir.
It's an honor, Sam. Thanks for having me, man.
You betcha. Now, it's interesting. Your growing up days weren't the most pleasant, were they?
No, they really weren't. I mean, there was the goods and bads, like everybody, I suppose. But yeah, I had some trials and tribulations to overcome. That's for sure.
I don't want to dig in too hard and make it too personal, but give people kind of an understanding, because coming from your background, it would be easy to just gain kind of a very unhealthy view of the world around you, maybe respond in hate and spite. You've chosen the high road, my friend, but give people a little bit of an understanding, will you?
Yeah, well, and the reality to that, Sam, is for a long time I did kind of go down that road of misery and anger, and carried a lot of that animus with me, which resulted in me going on a kind of a long personal journey to finding that better way. When I was younger, I was bullied. We were quite poor growing up. Moved around a lot. I mean, I was always in different schools and losing friends here and there because we were moving around so much. Folks finding work and just our situation in life was not what I saw a lot of other kids having. There wasn't a lot of that same kind of stability that others had, and so you'd make friends and then you'd move and go to a different school, or make friends and move, go to a different school, get bullied, and there was just it wasn't what I would imagine to be the ideal. And now I know nobody lives in a utopia, but it was painful in a lot of ways, and I carried a lot of animus and anger with me for a long time, and held a lot of resentment for quite a long time, and carried that into my adult life, and was miserable in many ways. And sometimes I could hide it, sometimes I couldn't. A lot of times it came out in very unproductive ways, but I worked my way through it, and now I do something entirely different.
I want to know how you gained the upper hand, because Ben Carson tells a very similar story. He talks about growing up pretty much in the hood. He wasn't a Christian at first. He, got very angry, almost stabbed somebody, eventually kind of realized, and it kind of dawned on him, and things changed. His mom said, hey, you got to read. He believes that was one of the great credits to his turnaround. What would you credit your turnaround to, sir?
Well, first of all, thanks for bringing up Ben Carson, because he's an amazing person. I've loved reading some just a number of his works and his story, and the ways that his mom helped to shape him and turn him around is amazing. I credit a lot of my stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I credit a lot, like Ben Carson, to my journey to Christ, I guess. and my understanding of the Lord and Christianity. And um, but then a lot of that led me to a personal accountability journey, Sam. So uh, books that I was reading, again, kind of like you were saying about Ben Carson, his mom told him to read. I was never somebody who read a lot growing up. It was just not a passion of mine. And as an adult, and especially once I started driving truck full time over the road and started reading a lot of books and like Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie and Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning. And these are just a few of many, but a lot of that, the common denominator in a lot of those books is being able to choose our response and finding that space between stimulus and response. And me, as somebody who had a very quick temper and was very very angry and dealt with many things in a very bad way, learned quickly that I had the ability to choose my response, and that's the way that I kind of worked through things. Had a difficult relationship with the Lord for a long time, Sam. Spent a lot of nights laying in bed saying, if you hate me this much, please just get me off this planet. And eventually I worked my way through it. Said the Lord's Prayer a lot and said the Serenity Prayer a lot, and I still say it a lot. And that helped me work through a lot of the things that I was having trouble with, and I lead a
And
very
now you
different life.
know he loves you and you testify to that and you help others realize that as well, right?
I do. I do. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, the Lord's been a big part of my journey, and I'm very grateful for that.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your family too, because sometimes when you grow up like that, it's hard to get a family and keep a family together. You've done both, right?
I have. I waited a lot later than a lot of other people do. I
That's all
didn't.
right.
I didn't meet my wife until I was 40 years old, um, and now we've been married for several years. We've been together for more than a decade, and started a family together. And I'm grateful to God every single day for it. She's my best friend. We have I've got a beautiful stepson and a beautiful daughter with my wife, and we just live out here in the country and spend as much time together as we can. And like I said, she's my best friend, and we're very blessed people.
Where are you at in the country?
So I live here in Minnesota.
In Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah,
So this is interesting because you're with Braver Angels and you guys bring people together. And man, Minnesota needs Braver Angels, buddy.
that they do. Yeah, Minnesota's certainly been facing their own trials and tribulations, right? And Braver Angels has a fantastic presence in the state of Minnesota, and Braver Angels has been a big part of my journey, my life. Because even after my personal journey, Sam, trying to deal with a lot of my anger and animus from growing up, I was still a pretty toxic. I would call me a toxically polarized person when it came to politics and how I related to people that didn't see things the way that I see things politically. And and yeah, about 5, almost 6 years ago now, some couple local ambassadors from the Braver Angels organization come and asked to be on my podcast, and I learned about that organization that day. I signed up as a member and haven't looked back since. It's been a big part of my life, a big part of my journey, and being able to realize that the person on the other side of that conversation, or the person on the other side of that tweet or that post on whatever social media platform, recognizing them as a human being instead of reducing them to the ugly side of their political caricature, I guess, is has been a big thing for me.
A great leader brought up a principle that I've learned and I've really thought about and really kind of tried to keep in mind and in my heart as I deal with those around me. And it was this: if you look at those around you, there's a 50% chance that the person on the other end of whatever is in trouble. And what that means is they've got a lot of hardships. You don't know what they bring to the table. You don't know what life's handed them, or the experiences that they've had, or the struggles they've gone through, whether they be physical, whether they be moral, whether they be, familial, family kind of stuff, whatever it be. Most people have a lot of trouble, a lot of difficulty. This life isn't an easy place. And so if you kind of think of people that way, and you say, hey, are they just trying to be a jerk, or are they just responding to things that, yeah, they need to learn to respond better. Yeah, they need to grow. They need to become Ben Carson and people like Wilk Wilkinson and others. They've got a journey ahead of them, but yet, do we judge them harshly, or do we give them room and space to grow, and do we set an example for them? When we get back, we'll talk about that and about your podcast and a whole lot more, folks. We're talking to Wilk Wilkinson,
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Wilk Wilkinson. He's Director of Media Systems and Operations over at braverangels.org, an organization you must learn about, and I invite you to be part of it. But I was asking right before the pause, when we look at others around us, one of the healthy ways to do so is realize, there's a 50% chance whoever you're talking about is in trouble too, meaning that they've got life's challenges, and whether it be health or whatever it be, that's kind of the way Braver Angels looks at folks, isn't it, Wilk?
Well, it's really about humanizing everybody, Sam. I mean, we never know, to your point, we never know the storms or demons that people are facing, right? Everybody's either dealing, in a storm, they just came out of a storm, or they're entering into another storm. And so if we go in with a default condition of just being kind and seeing that person as a human being, not reducing them to maybe the positions that they hold that we find to be, out of bounds. If we humanize that person and realize that we all have our problems, we can work through our differences a lot better than the alternative, right? So yeah, Braver Angels is really about seeing that human being on the other side of the conversation and not breaking them down to their positions that we happen to disagree with. It's the beautiful thing about it is we never ask anybody to drop or leave their strongly held convictions at the door. We want those people to bring those strongly held convictions into the fold. We want them in that conversation. It's just about being able to see that person on the other side of the conversation as another beautiful human being that just sees things different than we do.
And the point in my mind is free speech is sacred. Okay, we get that. We agree with that. The First Amendment is absolutely vital in a free society. However, there's a responsibility side of that. And that's what Braver Angels really want you to come through the door thinking. Hold on to your beliefs, hold on to your convictions, and you can even articulate them. But remember, you have a responsibility to do so in a productive way. When are you just attacking versus when are you, when do all boats rise, right?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, hold on to those strongly held convictions. We encourage people to come in, speak freely, fully, without fear. But we try to disagree accurately. We're not here to try and tell somebody how to say something, but if we're going to disagree, let's disagree accurately. And if we do have to attack a position, attack the position, not the person. We can separate the person from the position that they hold while disagreeing accurately and then trying to learn from each other. And really, Sam, it comes down to how we are going to listen to people on the other side. Listening with intention is one of the best ways to ensure that our position is listened to as well.
You got to first listen before trying to be understood. That's one kind of principle that I think really kind of takes us a long way as well. Tell people kind of how Braver Angels came to be.
So Braver Angels started in 2016 when the three founders, David Blankenhorn, David Lapp, and Dr. Bill Doherty, came together, brought together 10 Trump supporters and 10 Clinton supporters in a small town called West Lebanon, Ohio, for a weekend full of workshops and conversing, trying to better understand and again humanize those people on the other side of the aisle. So as we all remember, or many of us remember, it's pretty hard to forget, but 2016, pretty contentious election between then the first-time candidate Donald J. Trump and Hillary Clinton. And it was a very contentious time for the country, contentious election for president of the United States. They brought those folks together in West Lebanon, Ohio, to sit across the table from each other and have those conversations. Dr. Bill Doherty is one of the kind of like the primary mastermind in some of our workshops and the ways in which we do things, because Dr. Bill Doherty comes from a background of marital counseling. And a lot of the same things, a lot of those same principles used in marriage counseling can be used to help work through our differences when they be political divides, partisan divides, tribalism, those things. Those same principles can be used to help people work through their differences. So that's what we've been doing since 2016.
It's an incredible project that started out physically at the table, but now you've taken this online, right?
Yeah. So during COVID, obviously, a lot of things moved online. That Zoom era really changed the dynamic of things for a lot of people, and where a lot of the workshops were being held in person, local community workshops, things like that. It was able to spread, and it turned into America's largest grassroots cross-partisan organization, bridging political divides. So through the power of Zoom and online workshops and things like that, we've been able to spread our message from coast to coast and the bottom to the top of this beautiful country of ours. And we've got alliances. We've got more than 15,000 members. It's, like I said, it's a grassroots organization. So the vast majority of the people in our organization are volunteer. Many of our alliances are volunteer led. We've got alliances in, I believe, just about every state in the nation. We've got members in every state in this nation. And we're looking to grow. We're looking to bring more voices into the fold. And one of the great things about this organization is we try to keep our leadership, whether it be our staff leadership, which is very small, or our volunteer leadership in terms of like state coordinators and alliance co-chairs and things like that, split in terms of political ideology. So if we're going to have an alliance somewhere in the country, we're going to have a red co-chair and a blue co-chair. and possibly even a third co-chair, maybe of the purple persuasion, Sam. So
there you go.
But we keep it ideologically balanced so that there's not this misperception of one ideology or another heavily weighting the leadership in the things that we do.
It's Liberty Roundtable, ladies and gentlemen, in many, many ways. At least that's the hope of Liberty Roundtable as well. So let's talk about what it means to be a member. Is there a fee? Do you sign up, but you can pay fee? I mean, how does it work? And what do you get as a member versus just, the average citizen?
Right. So, well, just the average anybody can sign up and get our newsletters and things like that, Sam. But to become a member,
and that's free, right?
Yeah. To get the newsletters, okay, I believe is free. You can go to braverangels.org. Go on there to sign up for the newsletter, and we've got tens of thousands of people that receive those newsletters every single week. But then to be a member, a paid member, you go on to braverangels.org. You could go to I think it's the Take Action tab, and you can find ways to get involved. You can find find out if there's a local alliance in your area. Paid memberships are very. I think there's a very small fee of like $12 a year or something, Sam. So it's really not expensive. And then our workshops and things like that, those are free. So people can go on and take one of our workshops, a depolarizing within, or a red-blue workshop, or find somebody in your area that you might be able to get a one-on-one with, and just many ways to get involved and volunteers. Again, our organization is volunteer driven, grassroots. It's the people out there living their lives in our communities that are doing the work that makes this thing roll. And so we're always looking for good volunteers. If you want to become an alliance co-chair, you can work at doing that. If you want to take your membership journey and become a local ambassador to work within your community or work within your state. But we as an organization, again, volunteer driven, and we're in the business of courageous citizenship. So it's really about bringing your voice into the fold, bringing the people that you know and love into the fold, finding common cause, common solutions to common cause problems, and then working at bringing that type of mentality into that national identity that a lot of people are worried about these days, and should be. I mean, there's just too much animus and not enough working together, and we're about fixing that through courageous citizenship.
And in my book, A Clarion Call for Civility, we talk about this at the end of it. There's kind of a practice guide. I don't think civility is a one and done thing. You either have it or you don't. It's kind of like liberty versus tyranny. You know what? It's a needle, and you got to move in the direction of liberty. And if you don't, you're going towards tyranny by reality. Same thing with this kind of civility idea and this kindness idea. If you're going to basically live courageously, this citizenship viewpoint, citizenship denotes some degree of decorum, a statesman over a politician, somebody who's kind and respectful in their delivery, somebody who leads by example. And so anyway, my point is in my book, I bring up this idea. We've got to practice civility. And one of the ways we can practice civility is learn what I call power words, words that change the game, words that lower the temperature, words that offer grace, words that, some of them, example, are please, thank you, I understand, I appreciate you. Let's get back from the break. We'll talk about a little bit more of that. A little bit more about Braver Angels and how they do what they do as they teach us how to become true, courageous citizens and more. We'll continue to talk about how we can get involved. We also want to talk about our guest's incredible podcast. We're talking to Wilk Wilkinson, ladies and gentlemen. He's the Director of Media Systems and Operations at braverangels.org. That's braverangels.org. I'm going to become a member and an ambassador. I hope you look into this as well. You're watching the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live, syndicated by Loving Liberty Network, lovingliberty.net. Hang on, everybody.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. The U.S. and Iran have been holding a third round of nuclear talks in Geneva.
Omani Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi leaves a hotel with his delegation en route to Iran-U.S. negotiations. The state-run Oman news agency says al-Busaidi is expected to meet with the American negotiating team this morning to convey the Iranian perspective and in turn listen to the ideas and proposals put forward by the American side. The talks are viewed as a last chance for diplomacy as America's gathered a fleet of aircraft and warships to the Middle East to pressure Tehran into a deal. President Donald Trump wants the deal to constrain Iran's nuclear program, and he sees an opportunity while the country is struggling at home with growing dissent following nationwide protests last month. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Deadly gunfire off the northern coast of Cuba involving a U.S. registered speedboat. Havana says 10 people on board, Cubans living in the U.S., are trying to infiltrate the island with terrorist motives. 4 were killed by Cuban agents. Secretary of State Rubio says the U.S. is investigating. The Trump administration withholding almost $260 million to Minnesota over allegations of Medicaid fraud.
We have decided to temporarily halt certain amounts of Medicaid funding that are going to the state of Minnesota in order to ensure that the state of Minnesota takes its obligations seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money.
Vice President Vance. A House committee conducting the Epstein investigation is hearing today from Hillary Clinton. Her testimony will be followed by that of former President Clinton. He is due to testify tomorrow. The Clintons agreed to testify after being threatened with a contempt charge. On Wall Street, the Dow was up about 34 points, the NASDAQ down more than 350. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell, definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. Do you feel stupid for buying a timeshare? Don't. It's not your fault. You were most likely told you could rent it, and it was a great financial investment. And the deal was available today only. If this happened to you, contact your resort or Wesley Financial Group for help today.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-242-3131. 800-242-3131.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, "By having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids."
This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
The Epoch
NewYorkTimes.com.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Wilk Wilkinson with me, ladies and gentlemen. He's with braverangels.org, does a phenomenal job. And I was mentioning right before the break, we got to practice civility. We got to practice working with one another and becoming truly statesmen and women, truly, courageous citizens? Yeah, I love that term, courageous citizens. Think about that. And it starts, I think, with learning to use proper language that is encouraging and helpful and respectful and dignified. And if we elevate the language, we elevate our thoughts. We also elevate our behavior. Words like please and thank you and I'm sorry. And you know what? I was wrong. Whoa, imagine that, Wilk. I was wrong, sir.
Yeah, humility is a beautiful thing, right, Sam? It's one of these things where I often say our certainty stands in the way of so much learning. And when we're certain that our position is right and we're certain that we can't be wrong, we miss a lot of the bigger picture. But courageous citizenship is just one of these beautiful things that, like I said, we're in the courageous citizenship business at Braver Angels. And people often think of like cowardice and courage being the opposites, right? But courage is not the opposite of cowardice. Recklessness is the opposite of cowardice. But if we find that sweet spot if we find that sweet spot in the middle, that's where courageous citizenship is found. And we just take that to the problem that we're actually solving for, and that's making sure that toxic polarization is not the reflex to everything else. We want people to act instead of react to all those things that are outside of their control. And that's where we thrive as an organization, Sam, is because with all of these ugly things that are happening out there in whether it be our media ecosystem or our internet ecosystem, there's a lot of stuff out there that we're just tempted to react to. And we don't want to react cowardice in a fashion of cowardiceness or recklessness, but that courageous sweet spot in the middle is courageous citizenship. And that's what we can do, and that's what we can help people do at Braver Angel.
It reminds me of the guy that said, I was wrong once, and then I found out I was right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Wilk Wilkinson is multi-talented. Not only is he involved in braverangels.org, but he does his own podcast. And it's a very interesting name, okay? Derate the Hate, ladies and gentlemen, is the name of the podcast. Now, I want people to understand this derate word a little bit first. It's an engineering term, actually, I think. And it means running something below its maximum rating to avoid damage, to derate, if you will. So to derate the hate means to turn down the emotional temperature, okay? Turn the power down on purpose. We want to turn the power down on hate. That's what the whole broadcast is about now, right?
That is right. That is right. I was in the trucking and transportation business for several years, Sam, and one of the things all truck drivers in the modern age know is what it means to derate an engine, derate a powertrain, and that's so that system doesn't tear itself apart. And then combining that with the engineering term in broadcasting, to derate something, obviously, is to turn it down. To derate a mic or derate an amp or something like that is to turn it down. So it's kind of this double.
Yeah, some
thing.
say they want to derate Sam right off the map, you know.
Well, we don't want to do that. But turning down the temperature, right? Turning down that system's ability to operate so it doesn't tear itself apart. And that's really, for me personally, like I said, my personal journey to take down the temperature in my own life. But then when it came to the political tribalism that we're seeing in this country, and how that mechanism is tearing this country apart. I think derating the hate, turning down the hate, realizing that disagreement is not hate, and disagreement and listening to somebody with opinions differing from your own, that's not acceptance, but it's listening with intention that gets us beyond the hate that we might have for people that we just don't understand.
And an acknowledgement that, you know what, it's okay. Even if I don't understand, even if when you explain it to me and I'm willing to listen and I still don't understand, it's still going to be okay, right?
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Yeah, I mean, ideas that are contrary to our own, again, going back to the idea of certainty, right? Ideas that are contrary to our own, acknowledgement does not mean acceptance. So when we silo ourselves, Sam, from ideas that are different than our own, we have horrible things happen. We have affective polarization that's part of that, or we start to believe that those people in that other camp, in that other political ideology, are far worse than they are. But if we actually listen to who they are, one of my great friends, Monica Guzman, has the phrase, those who are underrepresented in our lives will be overrepresented in our minds and our imagination. And what happens is when our imagination starts to turn that person into the caricature that we think they are because of whatever positions that we think they hold, we tend to turn them into something much more evil than they actually are. But if we actually have the conversation and we go back to practicing that humility that you and I talked about right after the break, we start to learn that we do have more points of commonality. I say often, Sam, that we cannot hate people into believing what we believe or seeing the world or the way that we do. So if we have that conversation and we start to see different points of view than our own, we start to see that there's points of commonality. But here's the beautiful part about that, Sam, is when we're having those conversations, even if we don't find any points of common ground, what we do find is our shared humanity. We find that person on the end of that conversation, the other end of that conversation, is a human being. And if we have no place to go in that particular conversation about that particular topic, if we find nothing else, we find that cornerstone of shared humanity, and we've got a stepping stone to work from in our next conversation.
And we can always be looking for opportunities to agree. I think it's Zig Ziglar or somebody like that said this. People are down on what they're not up on. And that kind of makes the same point that you were kind of highlighting here, is that, sometimes it just takes a fresh perspective. It takes kind of maybe even for a second saying, I'm going to clear my mind and not hold on to what I think or believe or whatever. I'm just going to clear my mind and give the idea, give the point, give the assertion an opportunity to say, might I agree with part of it? Often what we do too is when we get offended or we disagree with a point somebody makes, even if they say something crazy or outlandish, what we first want to do is shut it off. Mm. And I agree that we don't want to spend our time listening to things that are just bringing us down all the time. But oftentimes if we shut off too quickly, we lose context. If we shut off too quickly, we lose the greater point that people are trying to make because we don't give them a chance. Is that something that you talk about and teach as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, well, I'll bring up another great quote that I love from Abraham Lincoln. He once said that, I do not like that man. I must get to know him better. Right. It's one of these things where if we don't take that chance, if we don't take the chance to find out who that person is, not just what they believe, but why they believe it, we're missing out on so much. I mean, you think about it before, and you and I are maybe old enough to remember. I know I am for sure, Sam, but I remember a time in this country when not every single thing was made into a political problem, and not every conversation had to center around politics. And we could stand in the driveway and have cold beers with the neighbor and never worry about, who they voted for or why they did it. we just got along and we just did things with people, and because it was the neighborly thing to do. And those
oftentimes they would say back in those days, he's kind of funny politically, but I love him anyway.
Yeah, there you go. And the thing about that is we've reduced all problems to political problems in many ways in this country, and we forget about the humanity that everybody shares. And when we start to realize that we are all human beings created in God's image, and if we don't have those conversations, we begin to reduce those people to something that they probably are not. And that effective polarization starts to creep in, and we find it easier to dehumanize people and turn them into monsters instead of other human beings. So the important thing is to take that, like I said, that Lincoln quote, I must get to know him better, because we cannot be enemies and we should not be enemies. We are human beings, and in this country, if we want to continue on for the next 250 years, this year we hit our 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. For the next 250 years, if we are going to coexist, we need to understand who we are as human beings. We need to understand who our neighbor is. We need to get along. We need to find ways to coexist with those people that we don't agree with.
All right, hang on, sir. Wilk Wilkinson with me, ladies and gentlemen. DerateTheHate.com is his podcast. We'll talk about it more in seconds on Liberty Roundtable Live.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government, and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
All right, everybody, final segment. Time flies when you're having fun, ladies and gentlemen. Wilk Wilkinson with me. He's with braverangels.org, and DerateTheHate.com is his podcast and website. How often is the podcast, and where do people listen?
Sam, we drop one episode a week right now. Occasionally we'll throw out a bonus episode here and there if we have something timely to hit on. But Wednesday mornings, we drop an episode. And then you'll also find on our YouTube channel and Substack and things that we put out video shorts here and there that are timely and related to the episodes. So people can listen wherever they get their podcasts, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcast, TuneIn, iHeart, anywhere. We're all across the board wherever people enjoy their audio.
They say drill, baby, drill. We're saying derate the hate, baby, derate. That's what we're talking about. So let me ask you, Melania Trump has really worked on her Be Best campaign. I know it's kind of polar opposite of Trump in many ways. He even highlighted that in his speech, how his wife is able to get things done that he's not. And he said, I hope you can tell me how to do that someday. Well, anyway, she's working on it. And Be Best campaign, I think, is a great stride towards that effort. Is she involved in any way? And how do we work with her? Because I agree with her Be Best campaign. It's all about not bullying children and bullying online and about kind of dialing things back. And I have a lot of respect for her initiative there, sir.
Yeah. So to my knowledge, she is not familiar and not involved with Braver Angels, but we would certainly welcome her into the fold. Anytime, whether it be Braver Angels or Derate the Hate specific, anybody that's doing work to tame the toxicity, bring down that kind of bullying environment, especially when it comes to children, Sam. I mean, again, part of my story, and I think I shared a little bit about this in our conversation earlier, but part of my story really involved a number of years when I was a kid being bullied, and that has a lasting effect on people. No matter how they work through it and push through it, it's still something that hangs around with people for years and years to come. I mean, I'm 50 years old and still remember some of the stuff that I dealt with as a youngster. So in terms of taming that toxicity and doing anything that we can for the kids of this nation and the future generations to stop bullying, whether it be in-person bullying, cyberbullying, things like that. I think we have to promote that and find ways to bring those conversations into the fold for sure.
DerateTheHate.com is his podcast that comes out on Wednesdays. You can also check out their Substack and YouTube and Rumble and everywhere else to kind of get context of what they talk about and what they do. It's great stuff, in my humble opinion. Margin humble, right? There you go. But they're also involved in braverangels.org, doing a phenomenal job. You can become a member and get involved in what they do. I love their idea of practicing this, learning in seminars, then participating in working groups to practice what you learn. I mean, it is incredible stuff. When I do the interviews, I usually, kind of take the direction and kind of, pull it wherever I like, which is great. As a talk show host, it's really fun. I get to learn a lot and kind of study at the feet of so many people. I've done this for 30 years, and man, it's a blessing to learn from so many people and kind of grow from their knowledge and their experiences and their examples. But you know what? You're a host in and of yourself. So the question to you is this: what have we left out that you think people need to know or people need to kind of consider? What would you kind of bring up if you had the floor?
Sam, I think that's a wonderful question, and I just want to echo what you're saying here is these conversations are meant to learn. Learning every day that we get to learn something new is a beautiful day, and learning from our fellow human beings, our fellow citizens in this beautiful country of ours, starts with a conversation. So we don't have to have a big platform or a big microphone or a big circle of influence to make a difference. It just starts with listening and practicing good civic behavior. When we learn how to have a conversation with somebody that we disagree with and work together to build a stronger civic culture, without allowing our differences to kind of dwarf the human dignity that each of us has, we can start to practice, as Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. You don't have to have a big platform or a microphone or whatever to be that change that you want to see in the world. You just have to have the conversation, sit down with people that you don't particularly agree with on a particular thing, and see how that starts to change things around you. Because our circles of influence don't have to be big. They can be a small circle of influence, but they're going to overlap with somebody's, and eventually those circles get from shore to shore. So that's what I would say is, you and I have these platforms, we got microphones, and we've got a background in having these conversations, but not everybody does, and not everybody needs it to make the difference.
drop the civility pebble, ladies and gentlemen, and let that baby ripple, is what we're kind of saying. One interesting thing that I want to bring up is there's a time and a place for things. Free speech matters, no doubt, but choosing the time and place matters also. If the goal is to bring the country together, you know what? Attacks, interruptions, all that kind of stuff miss the mark. But you know what? We can use humor. Humor can take us a long way if it's tasteful. Do you want to speak to that for a second?
Yeah, I think that's an important point, right? I mean, there's a lot to the idea of restraint, like free speech. I'm a free speech absolutist. I think it's very important, but there's a time and a place for doing everything. And when people try to shout other people down or try to use their particular platform to defame or degrade somebody else's position or who that person is, I think it's problematic. I think it's really up to us to say, okay, who are we going to listen to? Who are we going to idolize, if you will? I mean, I'm not a big fan of idolizing people, but what are we going to consume? Because our reality is going to be largely driven by our perception of things, and that's going to come with who we follow and who we choose to frequent in our media consumption or things like that. So I think it's important in terms of a personal accountability standpoint to find the right kinds of people to follow, whether it be a comedian or a talk show host or a particular media network or things like that. But I think we need to focus more, instead of finding those people who are trying to drive outrage and grievance. I call them outrage entrepreneurs, grievance grifters, paid gaslighters. I think we need to find it as a personal accountability standpoint from somebody who says, okay, I want to be a courageous citizenship or a courageous citizen. So I'm going to find people that are worthy of my time. I'm going to find media that's worthy of my consumption. And I'm not going to pay a lot of attention to those outrage entrepreneurs and grievance grifters that are just trying to make me mad or trying to keep us separated. That's what I think of when I think of First Amendment. Is I don't want my government telling me who I can listen to. That's a very conservative thing in my opinion. And that's why I love being a conservative is I'm not going to have my government tell me who I can and can't listen to or who I should and shouldn't listen to. But I am going to, from a personal accountability standpoint, choose the right kind of people to follow and spend my time following. I hope that answers your question, Sam.
No, it does. I think the First Amendment's critical to defend, but I also think it needs to be used responsibly. Whenever we have a blessing and a freedom, we need to make sure that we're responsible. There's always two sides to that coin of responsibility: time and place, respect for one another. Humor's a wonderful thing, but it's got to be tasteful and appropriate. Laughter's good for the soul. The other point I want to make is this: we need to give people a little bit of grace and time. You know, how to win friends and influence people is important. And I work with sheriffs all around the country, and people say, hey, is my sheriff constitutional? And then they call me and they say, no, he's not. I got to get rid of him. He's a bad guy. And I'm like, you know what? Give him a little bit of time. Work with him. Become his friend. Build relationships of trust. You know what? He can learn. And if he's willing to learn, give him grace to do so. We don't all know this. Our society is pretty, counter to this civility idea we're talking about, or to this, courageous leadership that we're working on. You know what? We all got to work on it. It's something that we're practicing. You mentioned one of the founders is a marriage counselor, and what he would say is practice thinking good things about your spouse. Practice being grateful for the things in your life. Practice. And so we need to give people kind of grace to grow, if you will, Wilk.
No, I agree. Grace is we're all humans. We're all fallible human beings, and we're all created in the image of God. We have to give each other grace. We have to practice forgiveness. We have to practice, practice loving our fellow human beings. It's an incredibly important part of how we coexist with each other.
All right, my friend, we're about out of time, but promote your websites, will you?
DerateTheHate.com is where you're going to find the most about me. But I would encourage everybody shore to shore, and anywhere else on the planet that might be hearing this, go to braverangels.org. You can find all kinds of great ways to learn how to better coexist with our fellow human beings.
Thank you, Mr. Wilk Wilkinson. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sam Bushman, and our goal always is to promote God, family, and country everywhere we go. And you know what? The Lord, even despite all my weaknesses, has given me the opportunity to learn from the feet of great people everywhere I go. And man, what an opportunity it is. This is Liberty Roundtable Live. Find us everywhere on social media, on your radio. God save our republic.